Sounds pretty straightforward, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But let's imagine now that you've only just discovered this cup under the tap. You've walked into the kitchen and there it is.
Yeah.
You didn't see the cup put under the dripping tap.
Okay.
So to be able to work out how long the cup's been there, you've had to make some assumptions. What kind of assumptions do you think you would have to make?
Well, I guess you have to assume the cup was empty to start with.
Absolutely, but you don't know because you weren't there.
True. And are you saying that's similar with the rock? I guess that's how they do
Absolutely. You also don't know that the tap's been dripping at the same rate.
True, yeah. You only measure in the present, as you were saying before.
That's right. So if someone had turned the tap on hard, partly filled up the cup, turned the tap off carelessly, left it dripping and then walked away just seconds before you came into the kitchen.
Yeah. I've got a much slower dripping rate now, and I'm going to estimate a very big age when actually it was dripping much faster in the past.
Yeah.
So it would have been, so it's a much younger full cup than I realized. And so you're saying some of the processes they use work on this principle? Well,
I'm just trying to draw the analogy, right? So that would be applying uniformitarianism to take the volume of water, divide by the drip rate, hey presto, we get the age. So you can think of radiometric dating, for instance, of working a little bit like that. You have a radioactively unstable element called a parent element that decays at a certain rate to produce what's called the daughter element. So if you can measure the ratio of the parent element to the daughter element in your sample, and knowing the rate of decay, you can then calculate the age of the sample. But you're measuring the process in the present. You're measuring the volume of parent element and daughter element in the present. But you don't know the initial conditions, how much parent and how much daughter were in the sample to begin with. Maybe some parent element has been added to or removed from the sample in the past, same with the daughter element. In fact, there are something like 7 independent assumptions you have to make to be able to determine the age of your sample based on measurements in the present.
Wow. And so is there anything that can ratify those assumptions, or is there any way that we can see that those assumptions are correct assumptions? Because I guess I'm asking, is there a way of calibrating this clock? Because this is really important, what you're saying, because when people think about the age of the earth and it's a stumbling block for Christianity and the biblical history of the earth, it's mainly to do with radiometric dating is the main thing I hear.
It is, that's right. Radiometric dating is held up as the like an absolute dating method.
Yes.
Which gives billions of years if you use certain processes like uranium, lead, or potassium argon, and so on. There are quite a number of them.
And what you're describing is not an absolute method. It's a relative method that depends on the assumptions.
Well, it's a method which is rife with assumptions. Okay, so it's probably not a relative method. Relative dating would apply to things like layers of rock above or below another layer of rock.
Okay, yeah.
In which case you would reasonably assume the layer on top was deposited after the layer below.
Yes.
Although even then, that's not necessarily true because sometimes layers are laid down by horizontal transport of a slurry of different particle sizes and so on. But let's not go there for the minute.
Yeah.
So it's put forward as an absolute dating method.
Yes.
But it is based on assumptions.
Yes.
Now, what happens when you get a date that doesn't fit what you expect to get? So let me give you an illustration. Let's say that when you've walked into this kitchen with our dripping tap and the cup, someone says to you, oh, I saw that cup put under the tap 45 minutes ago.
Okay. And then you've got
something. So now you know the answer. How long has the cup been? It's been there for 45 minutes, irrespective of drip rates and volumes of water. Okay. So you might think, when I calculate it based on drip rates and volumes of water, I get much longer than 45 minutes. So how do I make it fit? Well, okay, maybe there was a different amount of water in the cup. Maybe the drip rate was different. So you adjust your assumptions to make your scientific calculation fit what the historical record tells you. Can you see the difference? So it's the historical record which actually determines how long the cup's been under the tap, or if you like, the age of your rock or your fossil. Now, here's the catch. What do you assume is the age? And the assumption, in the case of the evolutionary story, is based on what people believe. So if you begin with a belief that says, I have to explain this universe without God, I'm forced into a naturalistic explanation because I cannot admit a supernatural creator into the equation. So when I have a naturalistic process and a model, that's the evolutionary story, I've got to have deep time, as it's called, the billions of years, to even have a ghost of a chance of explaining the extraordinary complexity and diversity of living things, for instance, that we see in the world around us. So the millions of years become a complete non-negotiable for the naturalistic explanation. So when you get an age, if it doesn't fit your millions of years, well, obviously the assumptions have to be adjusted so that it does fit.
Life is full of distractions, like this clarinet solo.